Welcome to American Baker in Germany. I'm Michelle, and today we are continuing our Baking Basics series with talking about the differences between baking soda and baking powder, and whether or not you can substitute one for the other. So let's get started.
So here are the two substances we're talking about: baking powder on the left and baking soda on the right. On the surface, they have a lot in common. They're both used in small amounts in baked goods as a leavening agent, or a substance that makes the dough rise. They're both white and powdery and are measured in teaspoons. However, there are some important differences. Let's start with baking soda. Baking soda is simpler because it's only one ingredient: sodium bicarbonate. The chemical is a base, which is the opposite of an acid, and that means that it reacts with acid. So whenever this ingredient appears in a recipe, there's always an acid to accompany it. Some common acids that appear in recipes are lemon juice, cream of tartar, vinegar, citric acid, buttermilk, molasses, or even brown sugar. Typically, your recipes will include one or more of these ingredients if it calls for baking soda. What happens in the recipe is that the baking soda will react with the acid in the recipe and cause some air bubbles to get trapped within the dough and cause the cake or whatever it is to rise. Now let's look at baking powder. Baking powders typically consist of three ingredients: a base such as sodium bicarbonate or sodium biphosphate, an acid such as cream of tartar, and a thickening agent such as cornstarch. This means that both a base and an acid are contained in baking powder, so it doesn't need an acid to react. All it needs is to get wet. Baking powder is much more often used when the recipe does not contain any kind of acid. Now the question is, can you substitute one for the other? Well, yes and no. If your recipe calls for baking soda and you want to use baking powder, you will need about 4 times the amount called for, and you may need to tone down the acid factor, leave out the vinegar, use regular milk instead of buttermilk. In the other direction, if your recipe calls for baking powder and you want to use baking soda, you will only need 1/4 of the amount, and you will also need to include some sort of acid. Either of these things will likely change the taste of the recipe you're trying to make. So consider just going out and getting the one you're missing instead of trying to substitute. One more thing, both of these ingredients can expire. They lose their effectiveness over time, so it makes sense to test them occasionally. To test your baking powder, add 1/2 teaspoon or so to a bit of water. Mix it up a bit. Baking powder sometimes takes some time to react. But you should be able to see some foaming in the edges. If you don't, consider buying a new package. Baking soda doesn't react with water, but it does react with vinegar. All you need is a small amount of both. And you will immediately see a big reaction, lots of foam. If you don't, it's time to buy some new baking soda. I hope this information was helpful for you. No, they are not the same. With some accommodations, you can substitute them. For more cakes and tutorials, visit our website at AmericanBakerInGermany.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe.